Hello everyone. So in this video, we are going to walk through how to use a new release, LoRa Models ACE Plus, a batch of new Flux-based LoRa models coming from Alibaba AI Development Labs. ACE Plus, I have seen other videos talk about these LoRa models being used for face swaps. In ACE Plus, it called it Portrait LoRa Model. But this is not the whole picture for ACE Plus. By the way, I saw someone talk about this in my Discord. Some say this is only best face swap, but Beside installing Insight Face or Media Pipe using Reactor or other Faceswap node, let's check it out how this method works. Anyway, back to the topic. For the face swap part, it's different with the Reactor Faceswap and Pulid. Also in other situations in a good way when we scroll down and deep dive into those information here. As you can see, the ACE models are provided as a toolkit for image editing using the Flux Transformer architecture. Now, these models are able to do various things. In the diagram here, we have creation, image editing of objects, and also doing portrait. But I'm seeing that more in the subjects and the alignment editing using these LoRa models or the toolkit they call. So let's check it out, how we can manipulate subjects into another image or using your existing image, using a mask and very easily manipulate or edit the photos of that. And one thing we have to notice or we have to, understand is why there is a company doing LoRa models or some AI models like that. It's not only focusing on the face swap if professional people really understand why, because, well, Alibaba is owning those e-commerce empires in Asia, and as you can see, they have Taobao and Tmall, which are very giant e-commerce businesses, and they need this kind of tool for face and object transformations or any image editing in a very convenient way to do that. So they have to develop this kind of model for their system by doing that. I remember they have another one called In-Context LoRA, which is doing something similar, but it's more focused on virtual try-on and logo editing, as well as images within other images with consistent styles. And also, we got the graphics, everything integrated within one using the In-Context, which was not long ago, and this is able to do a lot of similar things like that already, but then I'm seeing that both frameworks have the similarity of features. But the In-Context is more focused on virtual try-on outfits and product logos, doing better. After I tested both LoRa models, the ACE Plus is more into the local editing, object transfer for the image, so within that image and also the face as the identity of the portrait image to do what they call the face swap. But actually, this is another way of just doing the mask replacement of whatever source image that is input. And for both LoRa models, Toolkit they called it, there are a few things that we have to remember. First, we have to download the LoRa models. Go to the files here. In the ACE Plus, you will see that there's a local editing folder, a portrait folder, and a subjects folder, which means 3 features are in separate LoRa models. Now, you can download all of that. I did download all 3 models, and it's not taking up a lot of file space. And this portrait model, is for face warp features and subjects. This is something that I'm more excited about. It's very lightweight, 150 megabytes in size, and we are able to do subject transfer from one image to another image. Going back to the GitHub website, as you can see, in Alibaba Lab, they have a lot of AI projects going on, and Tcash, is coming from them as well. And ACE Plus, as well as a lot of visual generative AI projects are coming from them too. So you can follow up, with their GitHub account. Some of their new repositories will give you a hint of what will be up next in the market, what we will be able to use. Because most of the time, Alibaba Lab is making something that is able to be used in production because of their e-commerce business. They are doing that with that purpose in mind as well. And lots of e-commerce owners and businesses, I've run an e-commerce brand myself, yes, I pretty much like to follow up on what they have coming up in terms of new AI tools. AI models that are practically able to be used in the real environment, not just conceptual GitHub projects that you download as demos or, lab experiments that like you are lab rats. Anyway, after you download the LoRa models, then you store that in your ComfyUI. These saved tensor files are built for ComfyUI. So what I did was download all 3 files and put them into separate folders for the LoRa models. Right here, you are putting that in the ComfyUI models folder, the LoRa subfolder, and inside that, of course, I created another 2 subfolders for Flux and AC within the Flux subfolder, easier for me to manage all 3 of them. So I haven't renamed those files and just left them as they are from the download on Hugging Face. So let's jump right into the ComfyUI workflow. Right here, I've done a little bit of testing and modifications on how to use the AC files or the AC LoRa models. Right here, as you can see, I've connected 3 LoRa models at the same time. Now, this is a switch from the Impact Pack. So that means I am not including all 3 LoRa models in every single image generation. I will have control over which model I'm using. So here I got a get and set node using the JK node, and I'm using that input number to control whichever LoRa model I am going to choose for that image generation. Now, I like to do it this way, and some people like to use some custom LoRa nodes or LoRa loaders that have options on them, but that's your freedom to use that. But I like to do it this way. It's just easier for me when deploy ComfyUI in the production server when using these custom nodes. The next thing is going back up to the top here. As you can see, I have the load image for editing. I got the character, and I just tried this using the subject of these LoRa models where I have a backpack as the item for context. Now, why am I saying this is the item for context? Because I've been using a lot of the in-context method, which does something similar, merging objects or transferring objects into another image. So that's why I applied this concept from my previous workflow for virtual try-on and put it into the same idea, load the image as the base, and then the image for the item. Of course, we have to resize it. And for safety, I've added the remove background node here in case you have an image with a non-white background for the items. You'll need to remove that too. Right here, this is where you input your text prompts and choose the AC mode to work on. So for choice number 1, you're using local editing. Choice 2 is portrait, which handles face swaps or whatever feature that involves. And choice 3 is subjects, which will transform and transfer one subject or object into the image. Actually, this isn't a new concept, placing a mask and putting an image into the masked area. But then Alibaba Labs, made it convenient enough by embedding one LoRa model into Fluid Flux, enabling transformer architectures to help us use that as context and place that context into the object area within the mask placement. So I've tried 2 methods. One is creating the mask. So talking about masks, we have to create a mask here and then create that as a canvas. There are 2 different things when comparing ACE Plus with IC context or the in-context method, which is an older previous release called IC LoRa, In-Context LoRa. As you can see right here, I have the same input image and mask for both groups, but the IC LoRa generates differently for the mask. As you can see, the mask here, we've got the area where I manually placed the backpack, but the mask here turns white as well. This is another mechanism for how the IC LoRa, the in-context LoRa, operates. When you switch to ACE Plus, as you can see, the mask here is totally black, and only the area I manually highlighted remains white for the object to be located. So that means the 2 mechanisms are different when we talk about masking regions and placing those contexts into another generated image. The previous IC LoRa's method of adding masks isn't compatible with ACE Plus because of the way the masks are generated. As you can see, both methods don't add objects in the same way, so we have to move on to building our own canvas and adding the mask into the next generation step for inpainting. Actually, both ACE and In-Context LoRa are doing the inpainting method because they're built on Flux models. And as we've tried before, it's all using FluxFill for both frameworks. As you can see, I'm using this in another workflow for the IC LoRa virtual try-on. This is FluxFill, and then we bring it down here using the IC LoRa for masking. We're using virtual try-on and of course also using Flux Turbo Alpha. This isn't a new thing to play around with. It enables us to have quicker generation times within our process. The new way of using ACE Plus is almost the same method, using FluxFill, where I've put that into this get node and used the DIT forward overrider, which we talked about previously. We're using ComfyUI Patch 2 because it has a custom node package with 2 caching methods. Custom nodes here, you can apply Tcache or you can apply the first block cache. Whichever method you prefer, you like it and you can apply that. That's your freedom. So I've put both options here in case some people prefer using Tcache. You can just connect that and bypass the first block cache like this. And as you can see, the in-paint model conditioning, this is also running for both LoRa models that we've talked about, the IC LoRa. When we come back to my older workflows here, we also have the conditions passed into the in-paint model conditioning. We also have the image and the mask from the IC LoRa, And then we've got the K-sampler going through all of that, and everything is going to be generated in the VAED code. And also for the AC, we have the same mechanism here, using the in-paint model conditioning, K-sampler, and then the VAED code. Then I did a little bit of tidying up on the AC workflow, making it look cleaner by using group management for all the different features and showing the edit output here. One thing we have to remember is that for both LoRa models, they tend to put two images in the output, the two input images, into the generated output image, which means I have this lady and also the items image. They are always included, even in the AC. The IC context does the same thing. In this older virtual try-on workflow, we have to do an image crop to cut out the actual image result. And also, in ACE Plus, I'm doing the same method here. When we have the generated output, we've already filled in the mask with the inpainting method, and we don't need the item showing on the right side. So therefore, we have to use the image crop to cut it out and bring it to the actual generated image. This is the way the Alibaba framework, or the Toolkit, is doing the AC, and also the in-context LoRa models are doing the same as the output method. We have to manually cut it one more time. And lastly, we've got this output. Of course, I like to upscale that if I have time, so we'll enable the upscaler and go down to this group. We have the upscaler, of course. One thing we have to remember is that we're not using the flux-filled diffusion model. Instead, we're using by default the flux diffusion model to do our upscaled image. I use Turbo Alpha. Why not, right? It's just faster generation time, fewer sampling steps. Because the upscaler doesn't need that many sampling steps to do its job. So I upscaled it 4 times, and it will be clearer as the generation goes. So let's try another image that I have, and we'll see how that looks like. So here I've got 2 AI-generated images. Imagine we want to do a virtual try-on. We can also do that in the ACE LoRa models. By doing that, we load the image for the base and then the item context image here. So here, because it's already past Christmas, we can change the outfit. Imagine that we're doing our e-commerce site. We can change the season. Therefore, we've changed up this outfit and kept the model the same. We can do that as well. Cleaning up the mask area. And we've got the outfit here because it's going to be changing to another season's clothing. And therefore, we're going to do this swap by using option 3, which is the subject. This is going to transfer the subjects, these 2 outfits or garments, into the base image where we have a masked area here. So let's do it this way. So in the generic result, we have the correct things transferred from the item image to our base image. And right here, it's a very simple text prompt. Just say that the young lady is wearing a black sweater and skirt. And this LoRa likes to use this kind of quote for the image. Sometimes you like to highlight that as the prompt. You can do that as well here. So let's check out the steps that they're doing. Again, we have 2 images, and then we replace that lady's Christmas outfit using the mask area, and then of course we go back to the first generation of the image. We're using Flux in Paint, and through that we have the output from the AC already here. But then of course we have to remove this area. We don't need that input item image. We only need this generated output. Then we crop that image out as we have right here. And once we like it, we're going to use the fast group bypass to enable the upscale groups, and then we come to here. Well, if you can make sure you generate everything correctly in one go, then you can save time and enable the upscaler as well and generate everything in one step. So here, we're going to use Flux for the upscaling using Ultimate SD Upscale, and we save that into the folder. I call that the Flux Ace. And then, of course, we have our output image for the preview. We can compare that with our first in-paint image generation and our upscaled image. So as you can see there, the hair is able to be upscaled as well, even the face. And the important part is the clothing. Let's check out the sweater, able to edit more details after upscaling. Of course, if not doing that, then what's the point? You do upscalers, right? So yes, we've got the whole thing done. These are using the ACE subject now. The ACE subject has several applications you can apply, where you also have examples like this. They're using local editing and print-on-demand e-commerce to stick a logo on a mug or, your product. Like this headphone, you can put that as well. So let's try that out using another method here. So let's say I have a sports car, and there's a sponsor who wants to sponsor this car. They want to put the logo on the roof or the front here. What I'm going to do is mask that area. So come to here, we've got local right here. We should create a mask. Or we can make it a little bit smaller because they didn't pay much money for the sponsorship. So just a small local area here, then we can put this logo on the car hood, and then come to here. We'll be doing something else. For the text prompt, we'll say the logo on the car. Then let's try this way and see how that looks like. After we generate it, we've got this, and of course it's kind of a far shot, you can't see it too clearly, but at least we see the shape of the logo, and these AI models are smart enough to locate the angles of the logo as well on the product or whichever masking area you're trying to place it on. So the output of that is going to relocate the logo on the car hood. And also the angle of the logo isn't just a straightforward 12 o'clock copy and paste on top of the mask area, it's also rotated a little bit to match the angle, and as well the curve of the car hood is applied in the mask area too. Of course, we can upscale it here, but I won't spend too much time doing that. You guys, for production images, whatever, you can do that in the upscaler. And let's try another thing, which is the portrait LoRA model. Let's come back to here, we'll see. Right here, we have examples of two AI-generated images. One is for the face, which is the context to transfer into the base image. Here, we're going to do masking for this face, and this is a very easy way to do it. Of course, you can use Segment Anything or whatever auto-masking tool to handle the face part as it is, but then some details require manual input, which is better for the masking area. Next, we're going to input the prompt here. So let's say we're going to switch the face of the character and make them smile without showing teeth. So after the text prompt, we're going to select the ACE models. Right now, we're using number 2 for the portrait. Then go to here, we're all set to go. Other things in detail, like in the Flux, In-Paint, or the model creating masks, we don't need to touch any of those details. Right there in here, we can turn that off because this is for the IC LoRA. Just leave it here for demo purposes. The layer mask, this is what I'm talking about. You can use these custom nodes for auto masking. So if you want to choose the face, you can do that by connecting the image here and then putting the image through. Just reconnect everything here. And of course, if you want to see how the mask looks, you can do a mask preview here in the first group to check out the output of that and enable the face only. But then, these nodes are kind of heavy if you're doing it just for the face, because there's a lot more to it when you include other options. Well, it's good for doing e-commerce, especially including garment segmentation. So let's try out this one. We have, again, the output image of this character here. So in this scenario, I will bypass these nodes, or we just don't need them in this workflow. It's too much for such a small workflow, in my opinion, because this is mostly for clothing. A lot of e-commerce massive image generations in the server will be able to use that. But right now, from an end-user point of view, we're using manual masking, and that's good enough. So what I did was mask the face and then put this character's face onto the base image, where again, we've switched the face of the character and made them smile without showing teeth. This is the text prompt, and then we got the generated output here. And for me personally, I don't like this AC LoRA model for face swaps. It's kind of too artifact heavy. When you zoom in here, you'll see it's not that natural, especially with the facial motions because of the text prompts that are making the character smile. But even if you're not doing any facial expressions using the text prompts, I've tried several generated results, it still feels like there are a lot of artifacts here. And as they also mentioned, some resolve my content artifacts in their limitations section here on Hugging Face. If you go through that, you'll see it, and it's still in the development stage. The ACE Plus model isn't really reliable for face swap images, that's the truth of it. And even though, the 3 LoRA models, we again don't need to change any settings in the in-paint area. All the flux guidance is above 50, whereas previously using the IC LoRA, we were going into the mark of 30 in the flux guidance. I've tried 30, but then the generated result using AC wasn't that great. I can try it this time, you'll see the flux guidance at 30, and the generated result is not good. The generated result is okay, but it's still not up to the expectation of a face swap, in my opinion. Yeah, the stitching of the overall face is very good. It's better than Reactor, at least. But sometimes the skin artifacts are still very heavily influenced by the model itself. So I'm not sure if we have to tweak these settings or do something else to make that better, or if we just need another LoRA model for the face skin, or use another refiner with other models to refine it. But so far the generic result is going to be like this for the face. Then we can try another one, which is going to be another image. Here, we're going to do the same face on another AI image where we're changing the face. Here we can see that it was generated really fast, recorded everything at 1x speed, and there you go. We have the face warp here. The consistency is there. Well, we don't have to worry about consistency anymore, as I mentioned before. Using the diffusion transformer architecture models, consistency is not a problem. I don't know why there are still other YouTubers talking about, oh, the consistency is great, etc. But really, we're chasing or looking for the next level of quality here, which is fewer artifacts and, not some weird phase in the generated result. That's what I would expect. AI is going to improve in terms of just looking for consistency, and maybe if you're still in SD or Stable Diffusion 1.5, you'll be looking for that. But yeah, there are still a lot of artifacts. Even after generating a few times with that image, I don't really think this is an awesome model for face swaps. But for subject transformation like the previous video I did for clothing, like this, or even a product like a subject of a thing, and then the character holding that product, it's also okay. And the other one, which is like a handbag, and then the character holding the handbag, which is okay as well. And then the other feature, Wonder Woman dressed in another outfit, which is able to be done using this AI model. But for face swaps, I kind of doubt the quality of that. Like, yeah, it's able to transform the face recognition of the character to the base image, but then it fills a lot of artifacts in some way when I use this, especially when I add some emotional facial expressions in the text prompts. It gets a lot of artifacts. If I don't use any facial expressions in the text prompts, it gets better, but then it feels like a robot with no facial expressions. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, no expressions here, no smiling, nothing, but it feels like a robot because, again, it's heavy on artifacts for this model when doing portraits. And local editing is good though. I would say if you want a quick way to transform one object into another image, like what I just did here, especially this perfume being placed on the lady's hand, like, some poster, or if you have an e-commerce shop and you want to demonstrate a user using this product, this is a good case to use this LoRa model. So that's an overview of how I used and worked with these LoRa models. And this is a similar comparison with the IC LoRa, but just with a different mechanism running. We can't use the IC LoRa masking technique to apply with the ACE Plus LoRa models. So yeah, that's the difference between both images. That's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. See ya.